All right, here we go. Today we have Roger Bonds again, Diddy Security from 2003 through 2012. We've done an interview with you before, but a lot of things have happened since that last interview, so I had to bring you back.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so like I said, Sean Perez did an interview with you last time, but we're going to go into a lot more detail in terms of everything that happened, because when we did that interview, the Cassie lawsuit hadn't happened, videos weren't released, there were no indictments or whatever else, so there's a lot of holes that we're going to fill in here. So just to kind of give a background, you joined in 2003.
Yeah, 2003.
And before then, you were locked up in Rikers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And shout out to my man, Tony Yayo. Remember in our interview, he mentioned that you held him down while he was out there.
Yeah, that's my boy right there, no question.
Yeah, that's my man right there, regular guest. Okay, so you get out, and I remember you mentioned this, I think, on the Danza Project, where, you know, these days security's treated a little bit differently. You try to get the guy who's probably law enforcement, maybe a Navy SEAL, or knows how to use weapons and situations. But back then, you know, these guys like Diddy would basically get a street guy who was known that could, de-escalate situations with other street guys. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay, and you were that street guy.
Yeah, I was that street guy. You know, that everybody had that. Everybody had the guys around them that they could move around the city without no problems. It wasn't law enforcement back then. Wasn't no cops. It was, yo, if I'm uptown at the Rucker, like we're going to use that as a perfect example. Bad Boy had a team at the Rucker. You want to feel comfortable coming up to the Rucker. You want to feel comfortable coming up to Dykeman. And they're not going to respect police like that, but they'll respect, oh, yo, he just came up there with Bond. Oh, okay, cool. So, yeah, that's the way everybody rolled, no matter what city you lived in.
Right, because wasn't it right around that time that Wolf got killed?
No, Wolf got killed,
was it 2004?
Like 2005.
2005, okay, a couple years later.
Yeah.
Was Wolf around during this time?
He was around, but he wasn't around. He was in Atlanta back then.
Right.
Because I remember distinctly Wolf told me, he said, be careful. So I came on basically right after Wolf had left.
Aha.
You know what I'm saying? And one of my friends that just came home from jail doing 10 years for a body, and he was with Puff every day. I was with Loon. And then Uncle Paulie asked him one day, yo, who want me to be with you all the time? He said, that's my man Bonds. Yo, they did the homework, and it came back authentic. And he was like, yo, tell him to come through. And that was the lie. Ever since then, I've been there.
Right, and Paulie was officially Diddy's head of security.
Right, Paulie was the head and Wolf was the head.
Right, and I guess Paulie would be with Puffy in New York. Now, I remember I used to see the two of them in New York all the time. Like, he was right there with Diddy.
Right.
But when he would travel out of town, that's when your job would kick in.
That's when mine would kick in, yeah. Every time we got back to New York, I was off, because we might be out of town for a month, 3 weeks, you know what I'm saying? That's when he had the Sean John building uptown, so I would be off when we got back.
Okay, so you joined in 2003. By 2005, an incident happened with Kim Porter. Now, Kim Porter had been dating Diddy since 1994. They ultimately ended up having 3 kids together. At the time, in 2005, they just had 1 child together, but they had a very tumultuous relationship. I remember Kim did an interview with Essence, and she said that Diddy would call her 50 or 60 times a day. That, you know, she said, it was like my life was not my own. He was very, very intrusive. And I remember I did an interview with the actor Michael Jai White, who was friends, well, his ex was close friends with Kim Porter, right. And they'd be around, and he said that these phone calls would constantly come. They'd be hanging out, having drinks, and suddenly Puffy would call. She would have to go to the other room, argue with him, and so forth.
This was at a time where he was really back and forth, really wanting, I guess, I feel, to get back with her. But it was just chaos surrounding this dude.
With Kim Porter.
Yeah. And we'd all be, me, Kim, and my ex at the time, I don't want to mention her name, get her drugged and dragged into here. Like, Kim would be on the phone with him a lot.
So there was a situation on a yacht.
Right.
You were there, but you were around.
Right. Definitely.
So what was that situation over?
I can't tell you what the situation was over. I took them to where the yacht came and picked them up at. And Puff said, I don't need no security because it was just personal friends getting on the yacht. And then I picked him up when the yacht came back. And I seen Kim nose taped up. And it was whispers all around the office of everything that happened because his assistants were there and they was talking about it. He tried to say that she hit a table, but everybody in the office and everybody that was immediate around him knew exactly what happened.
Okay, did you know what the argument was over? Because there was rumors that it was over Shakir Stewart because she had dated him before, and there was a story at one point. There was a wedding in Italy, L.A. Reid's wedding, and I guess Shakir was dating...
Shakir was there.
Yeah, Shakir was there. He was, at the time, dating Kim Porter, and they said that, you know, Diddy allegedly broke a chair over Shakir's head, left him bleeding there. He had to have stitches. You know, Diddy threatened that he was going to kill him, and so forth. You know, Shakir ended up committing suicide, you know, later on in 2008. Do you know about this story with Shakir?
I know about the story with Shakir, but I can't validate the hitting with the chair. I know that he definitely had a situation with him because Shakir ended up, I don't know if he was managing Jeezy or heading his career, but everywhere Jeezy went, Shakir was there.
Yeah.
So we would bump into him in a couple of times, and Puff would just be like, be on point. You know what I'm saying? Shakir would give me a little look, but never a hard stare. It was like he was scared.
Okay, so there was some sort of tension between the two.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, but the situation happened on the yacht, and Diddy allegedly punched Kim Porter in the nose.
Right.
And her nose was broken. When you picked them up, when they were leaving the yacht, how bad a shape was Kim Porter in?
Kim was basically just quiet. You know what I'm saying? You could tell she was sad. It wasn't like somebody was supposed to look when they came off a vacation on a yacht for a couple of weeks and stuff like that. And she had some tape over her nose.
Okay, and there's actually a picture. This picture here was circling around.
Yeah.
Okay, so that tape over her nose, that was right around that same time.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, she didn't look like she was mangled, but there was definitely something happened to her nose.
Right.
There was stories that Puff had flown in a plastic surgeon or something like that. You know anything about that?
Yeah, he definitely did.
He flew in a plastic
He flew
surgeon?
in a plastic surgeon. Good. Puff will fly in whatever you need to cover himself up.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? He's going to fly in your doctors so that he can know. He was controlling when it came to Kim. So he would fly in doctors. Anything that if anything was wrong with it, that it wouldn't get leaked out, he was able to control the situation.
Okay. Well, like I said, this happened in 2005. You had been with Diddy for 2 years at this point. Leading up to this, had you seen any sort of violent altercations from Diddy?
I seen him get into arguments. I seen one altercation. It was a young lady. I believe her name was Erica.
Okay.
And that was his girlfriend at the time. I seen them get into one big fight. At this time, I'm basically rather new, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't step into the situation, but the situation also didn't escalate to stomping out or beating up. It was basically an argument that turned into a smack, and then they went upstairs.
So he smacked her in the face?
Yes.
Open hand?
It wasn't closed hand. Yeah, it was open hand.
Okay, how did she react when she got smacked?
Nah, she was very timid, and she worked for Sean John. So being that she worked there, it was but so much she could do. And they was together for quite a while.
Now, this was the first situation that you knew about between Kim Porter and Diddy, but it was not the last.
Right. It wasn't the last.
How many fights did you see, physical fights, did you see between Kim Porter and Puffy?
I seen 3.
3?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the first one?
That was the first one.
Name me the other 2.
The other 2 was one time when we went to Kim's house and Puff was banging on the door. The rumors were that she was inside with a guy and he was like, yo, we not leaving here until I get in this house. And I was like, yo, it's 12 o'clock at night, Puff. What are we doing? He was like, yo, she's in the house. So about 1:30, 2 o'clock, I looked at him and said, yo, we're going to get locked up sitting outside. Because we was in Toluca Lake.
Yeah.
And he was going around to every window trying to get in and everything else. So the next day when they got together, they went into the room and I heard some tussling and stuff like that. I didn't actually see what was going on, see what was happening. And then it was another time that I explained earlier that we were at the Beverly Hills Hotel. What type of argument they got into, I don't know. But he said, yo, get out the car, Barnes. And I got out the car. And next thing I knew, I seen the car rumbling, shaking, this, that, and the other. So then I opened up the door and said, yo, we in front of the Beverly Hills Hotel. So then Kim got out the car, she fixed her hair, and she said, yeah, like I said, she said, I want to explain. Put your hands on me again, and you're going to have to explain this scratch that I'm about to put on your face. And Kim knew how to, Kim got to the point where she wasn't going for it. She wasn't having it. She knew that if she at least fought back, that it was a chance that she could leave a mark on him. And if she left a mark on him, he had a lot of explaining to do of what that mark was about. So by her saying that, it would check him and put him back into his place like, yeah, I can't do that to her, you know?
Now, wasn't there a story that Kim had cut the inside of Puffy's arm, or there's an artery that was bleeding or something like that?
Yeah, that's on the wrist, but that was when Gene was there. That wasn't when I was there. But the rumors and the scar is there, but I never knew what it was from.
So you saw the scar on
Yes.
on his wrist. Okay, but this was a Gene Deal story.
Yes.
Got it. And I guess Kim stayed because she knew, eventually, once she had technically four kids with Puffy, because the first son was technically adopted by Puff. And if she ever decided to leave, it's like, what, $30,000 a month? She would just basically be making a bunch of money anyways, so she wasn't really tripping, or?
It was, I'm going to tell you a story. It was a time, I used to carry all the money, right, in the Louis Vuitton bag. That was Puff's personal bag, and I would carry it all the time. And it was one time that we was in the LA house, and I guess Puff pulled out the money without remembering that he left condoms inside the bag. So when he's showing his money, I guess the condoms came out. And the next thing I heard was, Bonds, pick up the phone, pick up the phone. So I pick up the PA system, yo, come to my room. And he said, yo, would you tell Kim that you carry the bag and you carry the money all the time? I said, yeah, so would you tell Kim this is your condoms inside of it? I said, damn, Puff, I left the condoms in the bag, my fault. I said, I'm sorry, Kim. And she just looked at me with a funny look. You know what I'm saying? And then I went out, I walked out the room, and Kim came about 5 minutes later. And she said, Barnes, both of you motherfuckers gonna go to hell. I said, what you talking about, Kim? So she said, both of y'all gonna go to hell. She said, I know that ain't your motherfucking condoms in that bag. And she distinctly said to me, she said, I go for this shit because I will allow it. She said, remember, I got 4 of them. And then about 3 minutes later, Puff seen that she was talking to me. He said, yo, what she say? I said, she said, she go for this shit because whenever she get tired of it, she wants you to know she got 4 of them. I said, what she mean by that? He said, yeah, she damn sure do got 4. And then that's when I officially knew that Puff had adopted Quincy, because I counted on my fingers. I said, the twins, Christian, I said, oh, he must got legal custody of Quincy. So that's what she meant. She had 4 of them.
That situation happened on the boat. And that same year, Cassie met Diddy.
Yeah.
And she was 19, he was 37. She had just independently dropped the song Me and You with Ryan Leslie. And the song was, I believe it first kind of picked up in Germany and then started to get a little bit of buzz. And by that next year, 2006, Cassie ends up signing a 10-album deal with Bad Boy.
Right.
10 albums. When you kind of say it out loud, it's kind of crazy.
That's phenomenal. That's crazy.
So Cassie signs a 10-album deal with Bad Boy. She releases her debut album. Me and You was the hit song on there. It debuted number 4 on Billboard.
Right.
And that was, although Cassie had some other songs here and there, that was her big hit song. At this time, Diddy and Cassie weren't dating yet.
Right.
But Cassie was an artist on his label, along with a bunch of other artists. So then that next year in 2007, Kim Porter was pregnant with Diddy's twin daughters. And then Diddy had a daughter with Sarah Chapman.
Yes.
Who was actually Tupac's ex.
Right.
The Tupac and Diddy connection is really runs so deep. It's a little crazy. Mm-hmm. And I guess once Kim found out about the other kid, she broke up with Diddy officially.
Yeah, Kim was upset because Sarah Chapman was also one of her best friends.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Sarah Chapman was also one of her best friends also. So she was really upset about that. And she said that she drew the line. So Sarah Chapman, child, because I actually guarded the twins when they were in the hospital in Mount Sinai when Kim had the baby. Oh. My duty was to sit there to make sure the nurses didn't take pictures and different things like that. And Sarah, they might be so close as maybe a month and a half as far as birthdays is concerned.
Okay.
And she got pregnant right after Sarah Chapman.
Okay, and she flipped out when she found out that Diddy had another baby on the way.
She flipped completely out. Like, the kids wasn't even allowed to see each other.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until years later, I'm going to say maybe, I want to say maybe like 4 years later, where she allowed the child to come over with the other kids and stuff. Because at first she wasn't having it.
Were you around Sarah Chapman, though?
Yes, I know Sarah.
Okay.
I wasn't around her. I didn't really get around Sarah until she had the baby.
Okay.
And once she had the baby, they went to arbitration court. Me and Puff flew out there, and he went into a tantrum. And Sarah is a very quiet, timid, around the way girl. You know what I'm saying? She wasn't after Puff for the money or anything like that. And that was what really seemed that he liked. And he told me one day, he said, you know, Sarah, it's okay because I give her like $5,000 a month and she happy. So it wasn't about what he felt she deserved. It was about like, oh, I could just lowball her and she's okay with it.
Was there any drama between him and Sarah?
Just the only time that I seen the drama was when they had the arbitration.
Okay. So, Diddy has like 3 kids in the same year from 2 different women. Mm-hmm. And right around that time, according to Cassie and her lawsuit, that's when Diddy started to really press up on Cassie.
Right. He started pressing up on her. Her first visit to the house, we was all in Miami. She came with Ryan Leslie. Mm-hmm. So when she came with Ryan Leslie, this was all business. And it was when she was there for 2 weeks with Ryan Leslie that Diddy started looking at her like, oh, wow. So I knew right from there that it was going to be a problem because he told Slam, Slam was his producer, who brought Cassie into play. Yo, you got to meet this girl. She's such and such and such. She's Ryan, da-da-da. So when he came, he said, okay, next time, have Cassie come by herself. So when I seen Cassie 2 weeks later by herself, I said, oh God, why did he allow this to happen? Like, I would never allow my girl to come out the Diddy house by herself. And that was all she wrote.
Right, because in the lawsuit, it said, that year, Diddy picked up Cassie from her apartment in Manhattan in a blue luxury vehicle. Cassie was surprised when she got into the car because Diddy was already high. He handed her a pill and told her to take it. When Cassie asked what the pill was, he dismissed her and said that she would like it. She later learned that it was ecstasy, something she had never tried before. And that was the first time that Cassie claims that Diddy got her high.
Okay.
And you said that everyone took ecstasy in that crew.
Right.
That was a regular occurrence.
Right.
Okay. Later that year, right around fall, Cassie claims that Diddy paid a promoter to create a fake flyer for a party that Cassie was supposed to be hosting. And that basically allowed him to make an excuse for Cassie to fly out to Miami without Ryan Leslie.
Okay.
During that trip, Cassie claims that Diddy gave her tons of drugs, kept her high throughout the whole weekend, and that was the first time that they actually had sex.
Okay.
Do you remember that weekend? Were you around?
Yes, I was around.
Okay. Do you know about the fake flyer?
I don't know about the fake flyer, but I do remember when she came back and they went out to the club a couple of times, and it was a couple of times when they would stay in the studio to 4 or 5 in the morning. I wouldn't be allowed to go to bed until they left the studio. And, you know, being nosy, we all would just stay around and kind of watch and say, yo, how long do you think it's going to be? You know, how long do you think it's going to take before he break the safe? That's that type of conversation. And then we all realized when she didn't stay in her room one night that we said, okay, this is it.
Right. And the two of them started to become serious.
Right.
He bought her a car. He got her an apartment in Manhattan that was walking distance to his
Right.
apartment. And she said that when he first showed her the apartment, her parents were there.
Right.
And, you know, they're a little skeptical, but they're proud that their daughter is doing well and she has this nice place and, you know, she has this, you know, this rich boyfriend, and, you know, she's doing well financially and pursuing her career. You were around her parents at all?
Yes.
What was their overall vibe with the situation?
I would say that at first, like you said, they was kind of skeptical. They never really accepted the situation, but they wanted their daughter to be happy. So the father was very quiet. The mother would be around a little bit more. Her brother would be around. And at the beginning of the relationship, it was like a watchful thing. But, you know, Puff has a way of sending them on trips and doing everything else for the family to ease it. So everybody accepted it after, I would say, around a year or two. It was just a regular occurrence.
Okay. And she claimed that Diddy lavished her with designer clothes, jewelry, everything else like that.
Yeah, she didn't want for nothing.
Yeah.
But he did everything. Wasn't nothing allowed to be in her name.
Oh.
Her show money, nothing. Everything was funneled through him.
And he was managing her as well, right?
Yeah, he was doing everything. It was
Yeah.
a one-stop shop.
Got it.
If you wanted to book her, because I was booking Diddy at that time for a lot of parties, so people would also come to me for Cassie. So I would have to go to him. And it seemed like $10,000 would be enough for somebody who just only has one single. But he would turn down a lot of the parties, and I started to begin to think he didn't want her to be successful. Because he would be like, no, that's enough, go get 25. I'm like, go get 25, I can't get 25 for her. And I think she started to catch on to those type of things.
2009, she shaves the side of her head. You were there when it happened.
Yes.
Describe that whole situation.
It was basically inside a club, and it was a lady standing up over, and I kept seeing Puff looking up, and I'm saying to myself, what is he looking at? What is he looking at? And then I think he had somebody, one of his assistants, say something to the lady. And then he told Cassie, yo, you gonna get that haircut right there. You gonna get that. And Cassie was just like, okay, Pop. You know what I'm saying? She used to call Puff Pop. And she said, okay, and next thing you know, the next day, if I'm not mistaken, his personal barber, Curtis, was the one that cut her hair for that first time.
Okay, and she wasn't against it. It wasn't forced or anything else like that, right?
I don't know what happened in private, if she was rebuking it or not, but I know that next day she got that haircut.
Well, and I remember during that time, it became a trend. You would go to the mall and see black girls, white girls, all with the side of their head shaved. And yeah, she became a trendsetter.
It became such a big thing that nobody ever looked at it as controlling. We looked at it as a brilliant marketing move.
Yeah. Okay, well, that same year, Cassie got breast implants.
Yes.
And originally, she got D cups.
Right.
Which, with a girl that small, I mean, I've met Cassie before.
Right.
You know, I didn't know her, but I've ran into her. I've had brief conversations with her. Mm-hmm. She's a relatively small girl. D cups on a girl that size is a little bit silly.
Right.
But who ultimately she did decide to get the D cups. When she got home, Puffy was upset.
Right, and she had to go back and get C cups.
Okay.
I remember that specifically because she had to wear things where she couldn't pick up stuff. So I used to have to help her out the car and pick up her bags and things like that because she was wrapped up.
Okay, but when he told her go back and get them redone, was she upset?
I didn't know. I didn't know if not, because my job was just, she just went back. I didn't have that conversation of whether she was upset.
How long after the first breast job did she go back and get the second?
If I wanna, don't hold me to it. It was so long ago, Vlad, but I would say a couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you described at one point that she was almost like a crash dummy for Diddy, where he would just have her do stuff and...
Yes. I felt that way because she was a child. She was a kid. She was manipulated, and she was with one of the most powerfulest men inside the business. And if anybody could get her somewhere, it would be Diddy. You know what I'm saying? So when we would be around her, he would say, yo, she's going to blow up. She's going to do this. She's going to do that. Yo, I need her to work with this person or that person. So he would put in the work as if he was trying to help her. But if you sat back and watched it, you would say, no, he's trying to control her.
That year, there was an incident in a New York City nightclub where I guess a guy walked up and tried to talk to Cassie.
Right.
And Puffy got upset.
Right.
What happened?
He smacked the guy.
Okay.
And we was outside the club, and then they came rushing him out. And I was like, yo, what happened? He was like, yo, man, he just smacked you. Da, da, da. We got to the house. By the time we got to the house, we was there for about a half an hour. And then he got the phone call that the guy would not press charges if he brought him down $30,000. So we went in the safe, got the $30,000, and they went and took it down to the guy. And you never heard nothing else about it again.
Okay, and that same year, another situation happened with Diddy's personal chef.
Right, Jordan.
Jordan Chiton?
Chiton, yeah, Jordan
Okay,
Chiton.
how long has she been Diddy's chef at that point?
She had been Diddy's chef altogether. I would say Jordan stayed there about 3 years. And this happened around almost on her way out the door. So she had been his chef for about 2 years at that particular time.
Okay. And from what you heard and saw, what happened?
From what I heard specifically from her, you know what I'm saying? He put his hands on her. You know, she said that he was very upset at her because she wouldn't let the cleaners inside the Alpine house. Puff used to live in Alpine, New Jersey. And she was there, and she was looking out for the twins. Even though Kim had nannies, she trusted Jordan just to, like, be her eyes and ears. Like, let me know, make sure that they treating her a certain way, make sure the kids is good. So it was a time that the house was really messy. And they had sent over some from the office. The office controls everything. So they sent over some people to clean the office. She'd never seen it because she was used to Mexican people coming over to clean the house. So when some black people came there, she wasn't sure if she should let them in or not. So she didn't let them in. So then the nanny came over and asked her to make some coffee. And she said she didn't know how to make the coffee. And then she said out of nowhere, Puff just stormed into the kitchen and was complaining about her, talking about her, got in her face, put his hand on her forehead and started pushing it back. And if you know Jordan, you know that Jordan ain't gonna let a man just put her hands on. So she said, don't put your hands on me. One thing led to another. And with all his might, he pushed her out, flung her out the door. And she fell on her ass and she fell on her knees. And that was the last time I seen Jordan. And I actually didn't even know. Everybody was talking about it the next day. But I was like, for real? She just quit out of nowhere? So I never really knew why she quit. But with everything that's going on with Cassie, she reached out to me and she said it's really, really, really bothering her. Like, it brought back all the trauma and everything that she went through with Diddy, who was always screaming at her, yelling at her. And the fact that he put his hands on her, that it was kind of driving her right now.
Yeah, I mean, the story I heard was he threw her out like on Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
You know, the way Jazz would get thrown out the front door, it was like that, I heard.
Yeah, that's exactly what she said.
It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But if you know Puff, when it comes to women and it comes to his workers, that's not the first time. You know what I'm saying? His exact words to me one time said, "Watch me make her cry."
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Watch me make her cry. Not even her Pacific. She had another chef. He had another chef who he had made cry. And I remember, I think her name was Danielle. And she cried and she told me, she said, "I'm going to call my father, Bonds." And she was getting ready to call her father to come talk to Puff. And I said, "Don't call your pops." I said, "You know, get yourself together." He didn't put his hands on her. He just was screaming at her. And I said, "Just get yourself together and think about it." And she had the day off. You know what I'm saying? She went and got herself together. And then the next day she came back, but she didn't stay for long. You know, it was like she had to get herself together and get a new job, and she left. But he specifically told me, "Yo, watch me make her cry." He got off on that.
So he liked to hurt women in a way?
I don't know what was wrong with Puff. I think it was his power. He felt like if women bowed down to him, it would show his power.
By 2010, you know, like I said, Diddy already had one apartment for Cassie in New York, but he went and got her another apartment in LA, which is about 5 minutes away from his house. You knew about that apartment?
Yes.
Okay. So now she has 2 apartments.
Right.
And she said that, you know, over a few years, that Diddy introduced her to a lifestyle of excessive alcohol and substance abuse that required her to procure illicit prescriptions to satisfy his own addictions. She said Diddy would have pills and other drugs in the open like candy. And at first, Cassie was given prescriptions that he had gotten from his doctor in Miami, but eventually he ran out of pills, so he demanded that she would get her own prescriptions in her own name and then give those pills to him. Do you know about this at all?
Yes.
What kind of pills were these?
You had all type. You had opium,
Opiates.
Oh yeah, you had Percocets. That's basically the 2 that I know about, because I really don't know those type of stuff. But I think everybody went, when we got to Miami, everybody would go to the pharmacy and pick his shit up in their name, you know? Even one time, I believe I went and picked up something in my name one time. You know what I'm saying?
Really? And then you gave it to Diddy?
And I just gave it to Diddy, yeah. You know, but he would do that on the regular. So at that point, I thought it was because he was Diddy and just didn't want to go into CVS. But he had doctors that would just write him a prescription for whatever he wanted.
Do you think that Diddy at this time was a junkie?
I know he was a junkie at this time.
How many pills would he take in a day?
I had no idea knowing how many he would take, but he had a bag that he would carry with him every day, and it was up to the assistant or even the security to carry this bag. It was called, he had a name for it. It was called the medicine bag.
The medicine bag.
And in this medicine bag would be everything that he need, all his pills, all the Viagras, all the Sierras, everything was in this medical bag right here. So, you know, sometime I would get it and look at it and be like, "What the fuck is all these pills for?" But he definitely had some doctors in Miami that would write whatever you wanted. And it wouldn't all be in his name. It would be in his assistant's name and anybody else that was around him.
Did you ever take pills yourself?
I actually did.
Okay.
I actually did.
Keeping it honest, all right.
You know, no, I'm going to keep it all the way honest. It was times where I was up 24 hours, 48 hours. And when you're around this type of situation, you try it. And I actually did try it. I had, took ecstasy at that time. And I found myself kind of staying up because of this. You know what I'm saying? And I had to get away from that. And I just stopped taking it. I wasn't hooked or nothing like that. I just stopped taking.
Yeah. According to Cassie's lawsuit, she said over the next decade, multiple times each year, Diddy would violently beat her, leaving bruises on her body. And after every instance, he would use his money and power to orchestrate extensive efforts to hide the evidence of the abuse. He would keep her in hotels to let the bruises heal. shower her with gifts, etc., etc. Now, you yourself said that you saw 3 different instances
Right.
of this specific abuse. So, let's talk about the 3 instances. One of which happened on Sunset Boulevard in LA coming out of a party. I guess that Cassie was talking to Johnny Wright. He was a music manager that used to manage Danity Kane and was involved in a bunch of other stuff. What happened next?
I seen her coming out after she was talking to him, and I seen Puff run up on her. And he just hit her out of nowhere. And she fell to the ground, and I'm looking to the left and the right, and I run up on him. And I said, yo, what are you doing, yo? And I grabbed him up off her. And then after I grabbed him, he stopped, and then he ran up on her again. And this time she fell on the floor on the side of the car, side of the truck. And I ran up on him again, and I grabbed him again. And I said, yo, what are you doing? We inside here. Yo, get in the car. And I pushed him inside the car. Cassie got inside the car. They started fighting inside the car again. I had to pull over, get back out the car, separate them again. By this time, Cassie is just like her hair is distraught. I didn't see the bruises at that particular time. And then we took them back to the house, and they went into the room, and they started fighting again. And then I seen Cassie run up out the room, and he was like, yo, Barnes, get her out of here. Get her the fuck out of my house. Get out of my house. And the assistants had called over, and they called over to the London hotel. And he said, yo, take her over to the London. And I went to the front desk. They had her keys ready for her and everything. And then she went upstairs to the London hotel.
Well, this was covered in the lawsuit. According to her words, she said in the car leaving the club, Diddy beat her, pushed her into a corner of the vehicle, and stomped on her face. Diddy's security, Roger Bonds, you're actually named in the lawsuit, tried to stop the beating but was unable to de-escalate the situation. When the car arrived to Diddy's house, Cassie tried to run away, but Diddy followed her, proceeded to kick her again in the face.
Right.
Cassie was bleeding profusely and was ushered into his house where she began to throw up from the violent attack. Upon recognizing the damage she had done and the evidence of the abuse, he panicked and he forced his staff to bring her to a hotel suite at the London Hotel, she just said,
Right.
where she was required to stay for a week. While in the hotel, she asked to go home to her parents, but Diddy wouldn't let her leave. She lied to her mother when the story was kind of started to circulate, and he basically told one of his assistants to buy her a whole bunch of gifts, and they were delivered to the hotel room to try to pacify her.
Right.
The stories pretty much match up.
Exactly.
So everything I just described
Is what I'm saying.
is what you're saying.
Because it's true.
Okay. Did you actually see her at the London Hotel?
Yes.
And
I would go and check on her.
You would go and check on her.
I would go and check on her.
And you described she had a black eye.
Yeah, she had a black eye, and one time that I went, she opened up her shirt. Because I said, yo, Cassie, you okay? And she was just looking at me. She looked at me like, I looked at her like a daughter at this particular time. But you had to be really careful with Cassie, because if you talk to her while she's alone, she'll tell you one thing. But it was like she was so scared of Diddy that when she got alone with Diddy, she would actually tell him that she was talking to you. So she told me she opened up her shirt. She had only had to open it one button. And she opened up her shirt, and she had a purple bruises all over her chest. And she just started crying.
Right. I guess you said that she was worried that it might be more serious, like her ribs were broken.
Right. But he had some doctors go check on her. He didn't want to see her, and he didn't want her around the house because he didn't want to face what he did to her. He didn't want people asking questions about what happened. So she stayed in the London hotel. Then from there, if I'm remembering correctly, she went home for a little while, and then the next time you just seen her back at the house like nothing happened.
Well, the question that a lot of people ask was, if you saw this, and there is no gray area here in terms of what happened, he viciously beat her, she's badly messed up, but you didn't leave your job. You continue to work for him. So in a way, people are almost blaming you for enabling the situation in a way.
Right. I find that kind of funny that people say that, right? Because out of so many security people, out of so many assistants, so many people around, why did Cassie mention my name? And the reason she mentioned my name is because I was the only one that would try to help her in those situations, which in reality at that particular time, I was able to diffuse these situations, or at least to get him to like, damn, Bonds just broke it up. Okay, that gives a person a time to now think about what they doing. So to me, I felt like me getting in between that was stopping the situation of him maybe even accidentally pushing her on the floor, murdering her, killing her, whatever. But the reason I didn't leave, and I would say it was the same reason she didn't leave. You know, she didn't leave because she was scared of her blackballing him. Him blackballing her.
Yeah.
So she would always come back. She would leave for a week or two, come back. I was in the same situation, just coming home from jail not too long ago, running around the city and the state. So manipulation doesn't just go for women. Manipulation goes for all your staff. So being the powerful man that he was, I knew that if I left him, that there was no other artist that was gonna hire me because I was with Diddy, and who was big enough to go against him? What was he gonna say about, yo, you don't want Bonds around you? So I stayed longer, but what I did was I started watching situations. I started trying to talk to Cassie about situations, and Cassie would just go back and tell him everything that I said. So it became a time when I was booking Cassie to go on trips where he would no longer let me book her. He would no longer let me be around her alone because he knew that I was talking to her about situations. But the reason that I really didn't actually just get up and leave was because who was going to look after them if I did leave? Nobody else was getting in the middle of it.
Yeah. Did you ever physically get into it with Diddy? Like trying to stop these situations? Would you ever try to grab him and push him off?
I would grab him. And sometimes he'd be like, yo, get off of me, get off of me. I'd be like, I'm not letting you go until you calm down. Calm down. You know what I'm saying? Because I was at that time, I was big at that time. I think I was like 260, 250. So I would be like, yo, just calm down, yo. Look what you're doing. You know, you try to bring a person back to remembering what they doing. And at that particular time, it would work. Now, what would go on later on, just like you seen in Cassie video, wasn't nobody around them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these things would escalate when it was only them around. Yeah, the initial hit would come when people was around. But once you get into the middle of that and you stop that, he's gonna cease it for that particular time. And then when they get alone, that's when it would carry on. So now if I turned around and left, and that's what I tell people all the time, if I turned around and left, and then the next day it escalates, if them other people around there is not there to get in between it, as well as taking care of my family, that's one reason also, who else was gonna stop it?
Well, according to her lawsuit, there was another incident that happened in New York after a party with Jay-Z. It was an Escalade. And she said that Diddy started to beat her, kick her, and so forth. He forced her out of the car on Fifth Avenue in New York. She eventually got a cab and got to her apartment in Manhattan, where she basically came home, cried in fear, and she spent 3 days in her apartment. Do you know about this incident?
I know about the incident, but I wasn't there for that night. Because when we went to New York, Paulie would take over.
Right. Paulie was the New York guy.
Right.
You were the out-of-town guy.
Yeah.
Got it. But you did see a fight when you guys were in a Cadillac at one point.
Yes.
And you guys were driving.
Yes.
Describe what happened.
Her and Puff was fighting, and I broke it up again. And I put Puff in the front seat, and I put Cassie in the back seat. And he was just sitting there, and I was like, yo, y'all can't be acting up like this, man. And then Cassie had punched him in the face, rightfully. She punched him in the face, and they started fighting, and I had the window open. And people started pulling up. Oh, shit, that's Diddy and Cassie in there fighting. And I'm trying to roll the window up at the same time. So in my mind, I was happy because I actually seen her fight back. In my mind, I was happy. And then when we got to the house, I pulled both of them out. And at this time, I was able to grab Puff. And I was able to start walking him up the hill. We lived in Beverly Hills. So I started walking him up the hill. And then Cassie ran behind me and she kicked him. You know what I'm saying? And when he went to chase her, I grabbed him again. And I was able to stop it. So these are the things that people don't talk about. So I was able to stop it at that time. And then later on, they went in the house. It was almost like they would stay in the room for 2-3 days at a time, doing nothing but getting high. And then when they came out the room, it was like a different person. Cassie would be like a whole different type of person. She was very quiet. She started really not talking. And that's when I started realizing, like, she's at the point where she's just terrified.
Well, when she punched Diddy in the face in the car, I guess she had a ring on?
Yeah, she had a ring on. She had a monkey ring on. And the reason I remember this monkey ring on is because Uncle Paulie had left this same ring in L.A. one time. And he said, yo, Bonds, when you get to the house in L.A., yo, I left Cassie ring. So I said, okay, I'll get it. So I got the ring and I put it in a tissue. And you know how you just empty your pockets out one day? I emptied my pockets out and I threw the ring away. And this ring was a $10,000 ring. So I just threw it away. So when I went back to Ralph's to look in the parking lot, it wasn't there. So I went to, well, I forgot the jeweler name, famous jeweler on Fifth Avenue. It's Loren, something Loren. And I went to her. She knew who I was. And she gave me the same ring again on a payment plan. And I said, yo, I can't go back and tell them I lost this ring. And she said, okay, I'm going to give you the ring, Bonds, but you got to pay me $1,000 every month. And I said, okay. And lo and behold, it was a see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil ring.
The three monkeys.
The three monkeys.
Yeah.
But this was a see no evil. So the ring that she gave me was a hear no evil. Everything else was the same. And once again, when Cassie got in the room alone with Puff, for some reason she was afraid. And the next thing I heard was, Bonds, pick up the phone, pick up the phone. And I picked up the phone and he said, yo, what happened? You lost the ring? You lost Cassie's ring? And I said, yeah, I lost the ring. He said, why you ain't tell me? I said, why should I tell you? I said, you always arguing with people about not handling things themselves. So I went down to the jeweler. I took responsibility and I got another ring. He said, yeah, but that's not exactly the ring. You had to really look at it and see that it was different. And he left it at that. But that was just one of the reasons why I couldn't really talk to Cassie and couldn't really help Cassie, because when she was on drugs, she would tell him everything.
So it's almost like two crackheads that are always fighting each other in a way, just high off drugs and just beating each other up, like the shit you see in the street almost.
Yes.
Because they're all high on drugs as all this is happening.
Yeah, they all the time. And then they would get the IVs in the morning and have the people come shoot them up with nutrients and things like that. And then the next thing would happen again. They wouldn't do these type of things in the house most of the time. It was like he had houses in LA, but he would say, yo, this Friday, me and Cassie going to a hotel. And they would go from Friday to Monday. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever they was doing, they didn't want people that lived in the house with him. Like, I lived in the house. One of his assistants lived in the house. The stuff that they was doing and the people that was coming to see him, they didn't want nobody else to see.
Well, there was an incident where you saw Puffy punch her in the face.
Yeah.
What happened there?
He punched her in the face, and it was almost like she was a little kid. Like, she was embarrassed that it happened. And I looked at him, and when he know he does something wrong, Puff himself is like a little kid when he knows he does something wrong. You know, he has a look on his face, and then you know not to ask him about it. So I never asked him about it, what it was for, what was going on. It was times where if she talked to a guy too long, he would get upset, and then the next thing you know, they was fighting. But around me, he started to become conscious of what he was doing because I would always break it up.
Well, you said that they had an abusive relationship that went both ways. Like you said, in the car, she punched him in the face with a ring on that, I guess, cut him.
No, I didn't cut him.
I didn't cut him, but it left an impression,
right?
You know, on his face. And both of them were hit each other but him more than her.
Nah, I'm not. I'm gonna say, when I say hit each other, I'm gonna say it's one or two incidents she hit back. But let's be real, Vlad. I've had fights with my wife, you know what I'm saying? And she can hit me. It's nothing compared to if I was to hit her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when I say that they have an abusive relationship, I say sometimes she did fight back. But when I say fight back, this is after years.
Yeah.
This wasn't like the beginning, because at the beginning she would just ball up and crawl up. And to see him hit her would be like, you mad about something else. Like what are you really mad about? You know what I'm saying? And it became a point where, like, even everything that they talk about, like, you wouldn't know that all of this was going on because the immediate crew thought that was wifey. Like, she was off, you know, nobody could say nothing to Cassie. So it was like, I love her. And it was times that me and him talk. And he would say, yo, Barnes, I don't know what to do. I said, what you mean you don't know what to do? It's coming a time where I'm going to have to make a decision between Kim and Cassie. You know what I'm saying? You know, Shorty want to get married. You know what I'm saying? And I remember one specific time he asked me that. We was in the Hamptons, and I gave him an answer. And I said, even though you love Cassie, I said, you know, Kim is your ride or die. She got the kids. And what I didn't know was, and he didn't know, is that he butt dialed Cassie. And the next week, Cassie came and told me, she said, Barnes, I heard you. I said, you heard what? She said, I heard you tell Puff to take Kim over me. And I was like, she said, nah, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And we never spoke about it again, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, from people I talked to that were close to Puff, they all told me that Puff refused to get married because he loved his money too much. And he couldn't comprehend potentially getting a divorce and splitting some of his money.
He told me that out of his own mouth. He said, I'm not giving nobody 50% of what I got.
Yeah. From people I've talked to that were around Cassie during this time, Cassie really wanted to marry Puffy. And I remember a private conversation I had with someone, you know, an executive that everybody knows. They were, you know, basically hanging out one day, and he said the whole time, the whole ride back was, hey, can you convince your friend Puffy to marry me? You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to get married. I'm tired of just being his girlfriend. You know, can you talk to him, convince him to get married? She wanted to marry him, but he never wanted to marry her.
I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You know, and, you know, during these abusive situations, you would sometimes take Cassie to the hospital?
Yes.
To the Beverly Hills Hospital, and you would go the
Through
back
through
door.
the back entrance, yes.
Okay. And
It's been times that I took her there, and it's been times I took Diddy there, where I don't know if it's called the overdose. I don't know, whatever you call it underneath them circumstances. But it was times that I had to take him through the back door for there also.
Okay. And the hospital basically just asked no questions?
No questions. It was like it was already taken care of through his staff.
Wow. Okay. And during this time, and you had kind of hinted at this before, Puffy asked what Cassie called her father and her grandfather, and that was Pop Pop?
Pop Pop, yes.
And he had her call him that.
Right, right.
And
she would say it over the PA system and everything else, Pop Pop. And he got off on that. And I believe one time he was on the phone with the father and said, this is my daughter now. She called me Pop Pop. She called me Dad.
That's always been weird to me, man. You know, when girls call me daddy in bed, I've always would stop them. I'm like, nah, I don't like that. That sounds almost like incest. Like, I just don't like it. But right. I guess he got off on that.
I guess so.
I guess so. And, you know, he would send Cassie's parents on vacations and give them money and everything else like that to try to placate the situation.
Yes, yes.
And they would take it.
Yeah, they would take it. They would take it, and her brother came, and I think he gave her brother a job working with her. You know what I'm saying? He would do all the things to calm it down, to satisfy, especially after they had a big blow-up or a big fight. and he felt like the mother and father knew about it.
In 2010, a situation happened involving Suge Knight, and this was in the lawsuit as well. She said on one occasion when Diddy and Cassie were at home doing drugs, one of the security barged in and announced that Suge Knight was spotted at Mel's drive-in diner in L.A. She said Diddy got dressed, retrieved multiple guns from the safe, and ran out to where, Suge Knight was. Cassie said she was terrified and began to cry, as he grabbed all these guns and this whole situation occurred. Now, you were actually involved in this.
No, I wasn't actually involved in this. I was at the house.
Okay. So, how were you involved in this situation?
In this situation right here, I was Diddy's security at that particular time.
Were you the security that barged in to tell him?
No, at that particular time, I believe it was D-Rock.
Okay.
So what happened was, because I came in, my flight was 6 a.m. that same morning. So when I came in at 6 a.m. in the morning, when I got into the house, Diddy ran up on me. Yeah, nigga, you heard what happened last night, right? I said, what happened last night? He said, man, we was about to give it to Suge. I said, what happened? So he said, at nighttime, Diddy would ask for burgers in the middle of the night. You know what I'm saying? So at 3, 4 in the morning, he had an assistant named David, who was the assistant, and D-Rock was the security. Suge knows D-Rock from Biggie days.
Yeah, that was Biggie's man.
Right.
Yeah.
So they pulled into Mel's Diner, and Suge and them pulled into Mel's Diner at the same time. So when D-Rock opened up his door, Suge opened up his door, and they was facing each other. And Suge looked at him and said, what the fuck you doing out here? And D-Rock said, I'm working. What you think I'm doing out here? Meanwhile, the assistant slid off to the side, and he called Puff. I said, yo, D-Rock and them got a problem. He said, what's the problem? He said, Suge and them is here at the Mel's Diner. So Mel's Diner is about 5 minutes straight down in Beverly Hills from the house. So Puff gathers up the things that he got to gather up, and he pulls up. He comes in the black Cadillac, and he told D-Rock, and this is what D-Rock told me exactly. He said, man, we couldn't let nothing happen to Puff. He said, yo, we ran into Suge last night. He said, after me and Suge had a couple of words, he said, a couple of dudes pulled up in cars. And he said, Suge grabbed the little dude by his arm and was whispering to him, and the dude was looking back. But he stayed in the light so that couldn't nothing happen. And Puff pulled up in the Cadillac truck. And when he pulled up in the Cadillac truck, they got in the truck. And he was like, yo, let's end this shit right now.
Wait, Suge and Puff got in the truck together?
No. Diddy pulled up in the Cadillac truck.
Uh-huh.
And D-Rock got inside the truck.
Got it.
And Puff said, yo, let's end this shit right now. I think it was D-Rock, and if I'm not mistaken, it was Rube. And he said, yo, let's end this shit right now. And they was like, yo, you can't end this shit right now. What we gonna do without you? Let's just go home. You know what I'm saying? And then some girls pulled up to the truck because they still didn't know who that was in the Cadillac truck. So some girls pulled up in a convertible Bentley next to the truck trying to get them to open the window. And Rube told him, like, don't open that window. He said, they just trying to see who's in this truck. But it was Puff inside the truck. And then they went back to the house.
There was another situation with Suge at the Beverly Hills Hotel.
Yeah, I was there for that one.
What happened?
I was sitting outside the hotel, as we do. One of us would sit outside the hotel. One of us would go inside the hotel. Puff did all his meetings at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And I seen Suge pull up. So I hit my man on the mic and said, yo, big boy getting ready to walk into the hotel. He frequented the Beverly Hills Hotel also. You know what I'm saying? So he said, okay. He said, where he at? I said, he coming in the door. So Puff seen him. And Puff said, yo. So I came in right behind him after that. And Puff said, yo, I got this. He said, let me talk to him. So after he introduced everybody, he said, I got this. And that's when he talked to Suge and said, yo, what's the problem? Like, why we still going back and forth about this? And Suge said, nah, we ain't got no problem, this, that. He said, I just heard an interview the other day where you said this, that, and the other. He said, but listen here, man. He said, look at me when I'm talking to you. He said, yo, we here. And he did his fingers like this. He said, regardless of what you say later on, I know and you know that we faced each other right here and that we don't have no problem. He said, nah, that was 20 years ago, Puff. I'm trying to get everything together. So then he said, I'm trying to help the youth with football, this, that, and other. What's your number so I could talk to you? And he said, nah, I'm going to give you the office number, and then you call the office and you let me know what you need and what's the situation, and then I'll think about it. And then Suge walked away.
Right. And you actually knew Eric Von Zip.
Yeah, Zip was a good friend.
Yeah. Eric Von Zip was close to Puffy because Zip was also close to Puffy's dad at one point.
Right.
But Zip was also close to Keefy D.
Right.
And according to Keefy D, in my interview, and TK Kirkland, this is a very hazy story, but allegedly, according to Keefy, during the whole beef with Death Row, they had a meeting at Greenblatt's Deli on Sunset, and Diddy was real upset over all the problems he was having, and he was like, yo, I'm gonna give $1 million to someone who just get rid of these guys. Whether it was a real hit or whatever, or just a guy being frustrated and just, airing out his frustrations. He allegedly said that. After Tupac got killed in Vegas, Keefy said in our interview that Puffy called him and said, was that us? Mm-hmm. And allegedly, there was supposed to be $1 million payment that went from Diddy that was supposed to go to Keefy D. Eric Von Zip, who allegedly provided the gun for Keefy and Orlando that night, was the go-between. He allegedly took the money and basically ripped everyone off and started a club called Von Zips. And I remember when I talked to TK Kirkland, who was very close to Zip, he said, yeah, I think that's probably what happened. Did you hear anything to this regard?
Well, hearing things too, I knew Zip very well, but I knew Zip because we both from Harlem. And I knew him from my street days of being in Harlem. When I first got with Puff, I wasn't really seeing him that much. And then I started seeing him coming around a lot. Now, I do know Zip from those days. He was in Cali a lot. He was in Cali. That was like his second home. Because at that particular time, it was a drug called dust that you had to get, angel dust that you had to get from Cali. So he had a lot of connections with the people out in Cali. And as far as him paying money, I heard that stuff through the grapevine. I heard he ran off. I heard that that's how he opened up Von Zips, which is the old Jimmy's. They called it Zip Code. That was the name of it on 131st.
Yeah.
I heard the same rumors that you heard. And I heard them a little bit more because I'm in the mix. Whether they was true or not, I can't tell you if it was true.
Right. And Eric Von Zip passes away from cancer in 2012, so we'll never really know.
Exactly. Which is a lucky thing for some people.
Yeah, especially Puffy. Yeah.
Especially, yeah.
2011, they're still trying to push Cassie. And she had a few singles here and there. Some of them did a little something, but not like her first song. So then Diddy puts her in the studio with Kid Cudi.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next?
At this particular time, I had left and I was still doing security off and on, and I was taking Cassie to her shows and stuff like that. But from what I'm hearing is that she was having an affair with Kid Cudi.
Okay, so she was in the studio with Kid Cudi and they started to actually get romantically involved. Now, from what I understand, Cassie had a phone that she would just leave around sometimes. Mm-hmm. And Diddy went through her phone.
Yes.
What happens next?
When he went through the phone, he called the number and Kid Cudi picked up. And he was like, what? Yo, I don't know exactly what he said. I know that he went over to his house. And Kid Cudi wasn't there. And he went over to the house. I know at that particular time, after that happened, Cassie wouldn't come around. And then all of a sudden, Cassie came around And Diddy was upset, and he was upset with a young lady called Capricorn. So Capricorn was his personal assistant. She was the KK. If you ever hear people talk about his assistant now called KK, she was his ride or die. She rode around with him everywhere. And he really got upset with her because she had to know about Kid Cudi because she never went to the studio by herself. She always went with Cassie. And he put hands on Capricorn because of that situation.
Huh.
And Capricorn ended up leaving and suing him for it. And he paid Capricorn $450,000 to keep her mouth shut. And to this day, Capricorn has spoken about it. I even heard Suge Knight speak about it on his podcast because Capricorn was also Suge Knight's baby mother, one of her best friends. So she knew everything that was going on. So I guess his baby mother must have spoke to Suge about it because he had beat Cat. He put hands on Capricorn about that, and he put hands on Cassie about that.
Well, this situation with Kid Cudi was mentioned in the lawsuit as well. So in the lawsuit, she said that Diddy found her phone and found emails between her and Kid Cudi. Diddy became enraged and proceeded to place a manual corkscrew between his fingers and lunged at Cassie. Cassie ran away to stay at Kid Cudi's home to escape. Soon afterwards, one of Diddy's staff members told Cassie that he just needed to talk to Combs, even though he was angry. Feeling like she couldn't escape, she returned back to Diddy. Diddy hit her several times and kicked her in the back as she tried to run out the door. She went to her parents' home in Connecticut, where her mother took pictures of the bruises that Diddy left on her. Then in February 2012, during Paris Fashion Week, Diddy told her that he was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car, and he wanted to make sure that Cudi was home with his friends when it happened. And around that time, Kid Cudi's car exploded in the driveway.
Yeah,
Do you know about
that.
this car blowing up?
I heard about that. I definitely heard about that. And I found it quite funny that the car actually did get blow up. So I would say that was accurate. I would say that.
Yeah, and I guess after that, Cudi didn't want anything to do with Cassie because this was like, okay, this was more than I bargained for.
Yeah, he definitely didn't have nothing to do with her anymore after that.
How do you blow up someone's car?
That's a good question.
I mean,
Especially how do you tell somebody you're going to blow up their car and then it blows up?
yeah, you'd have to send someone to put a bomb under their car. I mean, even having a bomb is already makes you a terrorist.
Well, they got so many different things that you can make now, cocktails and all type of other stuff. But yeah, I heard about that.
I guess. And at that point, you were essentially gone. You were kind of phasing out.
After that situation is when I left.
Right, and you went to go work for Ciroc.
And I went to work for Ciroc, yes.
Now, working at Ciroc, your pay was lowered.
My pay was lowered. It was something that Diddy told me when he asked me if I wanted to leave. See, a lot of people get the misconception that I got fired. No, I went to Diddy, and through the grapevine, I was trying to figure out ways to get away from him because it was just too much. The drugs was too much. The fighting was too much. It was like I was a babysitter. I'm getting between him and his girlfriends fighting, him and Cassie fighting. So I had to figure out a way to keep my job and still be able to leave. So that's when I was diagnosed with diabetes. And I went and told Puff, yo, I heard you got an ambassador job open at Ciroc. He said, how you heard that? I said, come on, I've been here for 10 years. I said, people talk to me. And then he said, all right, just give me some time. About a week later, he said, okay, I'm going to let you go over there. He said, but you know you ain't making the same money over there that you're going to make with me because I don't have no control of it. Even though he did have control of it, I think he thought that was something that was going to sway me. But I had already made up my mind, like enough is enough, because it was getting to the point where we going to hurt each other. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to keep letting you do this. I'm not going to keep letting you talk to people, more or less talk to me, because Puff talks shit. And coming from where I come from, sometime him talking shit to me, I had to catch myself. And it was one time where he said I had lied to him. And I said, who the fuck is you for me to lie to? And Uncle Paulie came over to me and was like, yo, 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 yo. And I caught myself. And that's when I said, you know what? It's time for me to get out of here.
Well, one of the things that was mentioned in the lawsuit was the freak-offs.
Yes.
So, in the lawsuit, Cassie said, while in New York, Diddy told her that he wanted to engage in a fantasy of his called voyeurism. He said it would turn him on if he saw Cassie with another dick. So, he allegedly forced her to engage in sex acts with male sex workers while he would masturbate and film it. First time, Diddy hired a man, brought him to his home in Los Angeles. Everyone was wearing masquerade masks.
I could believe.
And everyone took drugs. He would instruct her to perform sex acts with the man while he watched. He would masturbate and, have the man do specific acts. This would last for multiple days. He would call them freak-offs or FOs. And he would basically tell her that he wanted this thing all the time. And eventually he would have her actually go to websites to hire these male sex workers herself. He basically said that this was our thing and our secret. These freak-offs would happen at all types of hotels all around the country. At one point in 2013, they were at the Intercontinental in New York, where there was like tens of thousands of dollars of damages in the hotel after one of these. She said the chief of staff, Tony Fletcher, paid the invoice. Were you around Tony Fletcher?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Tony Fletcher was the accountant. She's also the one that came to me where Diddy had a thing where it didn't matter if you worked 20 hours a day, if you worked 24 hours, if you was in the studio 36 hours. He didn't want to pay you for the hours that you worked. So he had Tony Fletcher come to me and say, listen, Bonds got all the hours that he worked in. And she said, Bonds, can you please just put 12 hours a day on there? So she was his go-to with whatever type of things that had to do with money or office work.
Got it. So he would have Cassie go to these websites to find escorts, and he instructed her to search for large black penises. She claimed that he would fly these male sex workers to all different types of cities. The assistants would set up these freak-offs in the hotel suites with baby oil and Astroglide.
Yeah.
There'd be lots of drugs. She was given ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and alcohol. And afterwards, like you described, after these freak-offs, they would go get IV fluids.
Right.
To kind of recover from it. Yeah, it gets pretty graphic. At one of those situations, he would say, like, grab that big black dick. How does it feel? He would use a laptop and a phone to record everything. And then sometimes he would use her phone and she would delete it. But then he would say, I could still get it back. And at one point, I guess he showed her a video that she thought she had deleted, and she would kind of freak out and everything else like that. And there was, when things didn't work out, there was more violence and everything else like that. Now, you yourself, you never were involved in these freak-offs on any level.
No, I never was involved in these freak-offs in any level, but it's what he had, like I explained to you earlier, he had a medicine bag where all the medicines would be in and all the drugs would be in. But he also had a camera bag. So this camera bag was, if you remember back in the days, people still have them now, the little camera that you just put right there and you can hold, and they come with the little cassette tapes. So he had an assistant, and the assistant job was to keep this camera. I don't care, no matter where you go, don't put this camera bag down. And I specifically remember one time his assistant named Tommy had lost one of the cassettes. And Puff was getting frantic, like, yo, where is this cassette at? And everything that she said made sense because this was their personal videographer camera that they would use whenever they went to the hotels and everything. And it was the assistant job to keep it, to make sure you watched it, make sure you don't put this bag down nowhere. So I definitely agree, as well as there's times when they went to the hotel, and me being the nosy person that I am, like, he'd be like, yo, you got the weekend off. Yo, you got the day off. I'd be like, all right. So you know how you get to the hotel. I'm going to eat some fruit, He's like, yo, what you still here for? You gotta leave. So I'm like, yo, why you rushing me, yo? So, you know, I'm gonna be nosy now. So when I get by the elevator, I done took so much time to come down that when I'm coming down the elevator, I might see a Rico Suave getting on the elevator. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, he don't know me, so I'm gonna stay on the elevator. And I stay on the elevator, and the elevator stop on Puff floor.
Huh.
And I'd be like, okay. And then I wouldn't let the door close because this person is oblivious to who I am. So he would just walk straight to Puff door, and I'll just be watching, and I'll see him knock on the door, and then I'll see him go in. In my mind, at this particular time, I'm so happy I got the day off. I'm not thinking about I said, well, they some freaks. That's all. I don't know about him saying, you know, this, that, and the other, but I know for sure that those guys, because then he would hit me if they had a party that night, and he would be like, Barnes, you remember such and such? I say, what? And it was one guy specifically, he would say, it was a guy named Michael from Miami. And I knew this guy. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know what role he played in nothing. But Puff would always ask me, yo, can you make sure he get in the party? He ain't got to be in the section, but just make sure he get in the party. Then it was times that we went away, and I would always have the adjoining room to his room. But it was times where the assistant would be like, yo, your room is up the hall. I'd be like, yo, my room. And then I might see the same guy got the adjoining room. So I'd be like, oh, okay. I'd be like, yo, he'd be like, yo, I don't know what's going on, man, but that's his room. And then I put two and two together, like that's the adjoining room, so the person don't got to come outside no more. And these went on quite often. What was going on back there? For me reading the lawsuit, that's when I put two and two together, like, wow, this was the freak off. But it made a lot of sense. You know, it was one specific time we was in Las Vegas, and it was just me and Puff. And he had the Caesars suite, and I had the room down the hall. And he called me. He said, yo, what's up? I said, oh, yo, ain't nice. What you doing? I said, nothing. I'm in the room. I'm chilling. What's up? What you need? I said, you getting ready to go out? He said, nah, I don't want to go out, but why you staying there? Yo, you could come stay here. I got 2 floors. So I said, all right, cool. It's just me and him. All right, I'll stay here. And he tells me, he says, yo, I got this girl coming over. I can't remember her name, but I knew all the girls, you know. After, you know, they all knew me by my name, Barnes, hey. So he'd be like, yo, I got such and such coming over. So, you know, he was like, yo, can you do me a favor? I said, what? And, you know, when I read the lawsuit, Vlad, I said, wow. Because me and him we would go to the sex stores together, you know, Hustler on Sunset, different places, and he would go over on his side and get everything he get, and I would just kind of watch to make sure people that recognized him wasn't bothering him, you know. And this particular day, he said, yo, it's too much people out there, da-da-da. I need you to go to the store for me. I said, what you want? And when I read the lawsuit, he said, I want this really big black cock. That's it. And then, like, you got to remember, at this time, the lawsuit is not out. This is 2011. So he said, yo, shorty likes big black dicks, you know. And he said, yo, and if she get crazy, you know what I'm saying, I need that. And I said, all right. And I go and get it for him, you know, from there. It's in the bag. I give it to him. He like, yo, where you going to be? I said, I'm going to be upstairs. He said, all right. You know, it's one of his regular girls. So when I read the lawsuit, I kind of had to go back and think to myself, damn, was that big black cock for her or was it for him? You know what I'm saying? And that's why I know that stuff that she said was true.
I mean, there's always been the gay rumors about Diddy. I remember when I interviewed Wendy Williams, she got fired from the radio in New York because she basically said she had seen some pictures of Puffy with some men, and he basically called the radio station and said, you either fire her or I'm going to sue you. So she got fired. Right. There was this comedian named the Fat Jew who said that he walked into a party on Star Island and he saw Diddy spooning with this one gay DJ named Felix the House Cat.
Yeah, that's my man, Felix.
You know Felix?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Was there a relationship of any sort between Felix and Diddy?
I can't say yes and I can't say no. I've never seen them do anything, but he was one of the in crowds. He was one of the in people with Diddy. where you had like certain people that were just Diddy friends. You know, we got to know them throughout time, but they would pop up at the parties in San Tropez, pop up in the parties at Cannes. You know, these were just his personal friends. So they would do ecstasy and everything else together. You know what I'm saying? Felix stayed at the house and everything else like that. So I've never actually seen him do anything physical or anything like that, but I do know Felix well.
Yeah, you know, and Felix is openly gay.
Right.
From what I understand. And I mean, this is where the gray area comes in. You don't know. You know, I've taken ecstasy before and you get real like, yo, I love you, man. Like you touch on, you know,
right.
You're not touching on dudes sexually, but you hugging them, I love you, man. You know, kiss them, you know, like in the forehead or something, you know. And it's like at the time, it's just like, yo, man, you know, it's not a gay thing.
Right.
But it's just like you just get into a certain mood. Is Diddy gay? Is he bisexual? I personally don't know. These stories circulate. Hard to tell. I don't know. I've never seen anything gay. You've never seen anything gay. I don't know. But people say that if he just came out as bisexual, it'd actually help him out at this point.
Yeah, I felt the same way. You know, people always tell me, if you had to ask me, I would say he was definitely bisexual. But coming from Harlem, representing gangster rap at that time, it's not like 2024. You know what I'm saying? So I think that he was fighting that fact so much that for him to come out now, he felt like it would destroy everything that he built.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I felt like that he should have just said exactly what it was back then. Because the question is now is not about whether you're gay or not. It's about domestic violence.
Yeah.
You know, being the gay part is just something extra on there, something to spruce about. But it's the part that to hide these things, you're beating people, you're beating women, you're doing all type of things to hide these things.
Yeah, I remember I joked around about, you know, I wonder who's going to be the first friend of Diddy who accidentally says no Diddy around him. You know? Yeah. Like, what up, man? Yo, I miss you, no Diddy. Oh, sorry, my bad.
And I actually seen the first friend. I seen Ray J on Instagram.
Oh, yeah?
He said something in a post, and at the end of the post, he put no Diddy.
Yeah.
And I seen Stevie J and quite a couple of other people that's close to Puff say, yo, that was corny. Why you do that?
Then came the situation at the Intercontinental in 2016.
Right.
According to the lawsuit, said that during a freak-off at the Intercontinental Hotel in Century City in Los Angeles, Diddy became extremely intoxicated and punched Cassie in the face, giving her a black eye. After he fell asleep, Cassie tried to leave the hotel room, but as she was walking away, Diddy woke up and began screaming at her. He followed her into the hallway of the hotel while yelling at her, grabbed her, then took glass vases in the hallway, threw it at her, causing them to crash all around as she ran to the elevator to escape. She managed to get to the elevator, but when she got to the lobby, she took a cab and went to her apartment. After she realized that running away, you know, it would cause Diddy to get even angrier at her, she actually came back to the hotel and with the intention of apologizing. When she got back, hotel security stopped her and told her to get back into the cab and go back to her apartment because they'd seen the security footage of what had happened. Now, upon information and belief, she says that Diddy paid the Intercontinental Security $50,000 for the security footage. After this, basically, Cassie left. She went home and she stayed at a friend's house in Florida. She also said that James Cruz, who was Diddy's like manager for like a long time, and I know James Cruz, he found her and said that her single won't get released unless they talk. Now, this was one of many incidents that was mentioned in the lawsuit. And a lot of people were questioning, well, did it happen? Did it not happen? What really happened? But recently, CNN actually released the security footage.
Right.
And you saw it for the first time. Mm-hmm. Diddy chasing her down the hallway, forcibly throwing her down, kicking her, dragging her. You saw him like throw vases. You know, you don't see her in the frame, but he's throwing something at somebody. You assume it's her. And for the first time, the whole world actually got to see this play out.
Right.
Now, I remember I did a post on Twitter and I said, the strange part about this was why the Intercontinental? Because that's like a 4-star hotel and Diddy's like a billionaire. You know, I don't stay at the Intercontinental. I stay at, you know, the Ritz or, you know,
right.
the Four Seasons. But people started to respond to me and explain, and these are some people that actually worked at the Intercontinental. They said that Diddy would actually rent out the entire floor.
Right.
You saw it happen?
No, I've never seen him. Our main hotel in Atlanta was the Intercontinental also.
Okay.
And he would rent out the presidential suite.
Okay. Well, I talked to other people who were affiliated with him, and they said, yes, he would rent out the entire floor. The reason I say this is because in that video, it seemed that he wasn't concerned about other residents in the hotel because he was doing this in an open lobby.
Right.
Now, you were not with Diddy when this happened because this is
Right.
2016.
Right.
When you saw that video, what did you think?
It brought me back to the time that I seen him stomping her and kicking her on Sunset. And I said to myself, I said, damn, he's still doing this? That was exactly what I said when I seen the video. And then I said, I had mentioned a couple of times about Diddy fighting with women and stuff like that. And so many people got on top of me, yo, you mad about this? You mad about that? So when I seen the footage, I was like, okay, yes. Like I wasn't happy, but I wasn't happy because the footage is raw. But it made everything come out from behind what people think, because people don't want their superhero to be a bad person. And all the accolades and things that Diddy accomplished, people didn't want to believe that about him. So when I seen that, I felt relieved. I felt relieved because I felt like now he don't have no choice but to say this was the truth. And this was the one time he got caught. So now I'm saying people gonna believe everything I said, everything Gene said, everything that people said, and people don't realize how powerful Diddy really was or Diddy really is. And it went back to people saying, why did you stay for this? Why did you stay for that? And when I seen that footage, I said, that'll answer all of these questions, because for that to happen in 2016 and for it just to be released now, that shows you the power that a person has. Intercontinental isn't the Ritz, but it's a prominent hotel with a lot of staff. And who would risk their job giving you this security footage, knowing that anybody from the presidents, from the people on an executive board that runs it could find these things out. So that shows you that he had connections that went all the way to the top.
Yeah, I mean, look, I had done multiple interviews on Piers Morgan, and, you know, based on our conversations where you said, you know, look, you were in the car and Cassie punched Diddy in the face.
Right.
I said, look, I'm not sure. You know, it seems to me like there was abuse both ways based on our conversations. And I've had abusive women in my life.
Right.
You know, I've had women put their hands on me and I would stop them and I would grab them. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I never struck a woman in my life, but I stopped women from grabbing me.
Right.
You know, from punching me or slapping me. I would stop them.
As you should.
As I should, but I never struck a woman.
Right.
So I'm thinking, well, me being in certain situations like this, who knows what really happened? Maybe she's just a crazy, aggressive, violent woman and he's just stopping her. But when I saw this video, I said, okay, that's all out the window.
And that's the way people took it. People took it that way. People say, oh, you contradicting yourself, Bonds. You said that. No, in reality, I did see her hit him back. But like I just said, my wife, my girlfriend, I've been hit plenty of times also.
Yeah.
Now that's that makes the decision between a man and a coward there. Because when they hit you, they're not hitting you with the force and the power that you have. He didn't hit her back like, and granted, you know what I'm saying? When I was a younger guy, 17, 18 and got hit, yeah, you might hit back. But after that first initial hit, you snap back and say, oh my God, I just hit my girl. You know what I'm saying? Even if she did hit you, but at the age of 40 something and everything that you've been through, for you not to be able to hold, this is your girl, this is your wife, this is your whoever. So for you to repeatedly do it is something that you're accustomed to. It's something that you enjoy. It's something that you like.
Yeah, I mean, watching that video, regardless of what happened before,
Right.
she was leaving, he was in no danger.
Right,
On any level, he pursued her
right,
and viciously attacked her,
right.
regardless of what happened.
Which is the same thing if somebody break into your house. If they break into your house and they're leaving and you shoot them, you're gonna get locked up because that person was leaving.
Yes.
So if you look at the situation of this girl leaving and what happened to her,
Yeah.
he deserved whatever comes to him for that. And this was 2016. They broke up in 2018.
Right. How do you think this video got released?
How do I think it got?
Yeah, I mean, has there been other situations? Because you talked about the situation back in New York where he smacked that guy for talking to Cassie, and then allegedly he got the footage from the club.
Right.
Was this happening multiple times? Would he be obtaining footage of situations that he would try to cover up?
Yes, of course. That's his first thing. It's been times where people got beat up in front of the studio, and he's gonna get that footage from the studio building. He got a studio in there, but he doesn't own the building.
Yeah.
So in order to get that footage, you gotta have connections with the owner of the building. Anything that happens that's wrong, you're gonna reach out there and try to get that footage. So when they said that he got the footage, I believe in the lawsuit, she said, but what he didn't know was that somebody from the hotel gave her a copy.
You know that for a fact?
I don't know it for a fact. I thought she mentioned that in small writing in there.
Okay,
But
I'm not sure about
we
that.
could be sure about that. But she mentioned a lot of stuff. It was another young lady named Kevin, because when this happened and she put my name into it, I tried to reach out to her. Like, okay, you could at least let me know you was going to use my name or something like that. So she has a friend named Kerry Morgan. And I reached out to Kerry, like, yo, tell Cassie to get at me. And even Kerry hit me back and said, Barnes, I haven't spoken to Cassie since 2018. And I said, you haven't spoken to Cassie since 2018? She said, no, not ever since Diddy went upside my head with a hanger and gave me a concussion. And I said, Diddy did what? She said, yeah, in 2018, he threw a wooden hanger at me and Cassie didn't have my back. And I haven't spoken to her since then. So when I read the lawsuit, I seen in there where she said that he had put hands on one of her friends, and then I think he paid her $50,000. And I put two and two together and said, okay, this is Kerry. Because Kerry said she didn't say nothing. And I was wondering why she never said nothing, but then I seen in it that she gave him the $50,000. In the same way, Jordan couldn't say nothing about him beating her up and throwing her out the house and her falling on her ass and elbows, is the NDA situation where they can't mention it publicly or anybody, but somebody else can. So that's what he's been hiding behind this whole time.
Oh, well, yeah. Biggie's mom actually did an interview with Rolling Stone, and she said after seeing the video, she wants to smack the daylights out of Diddy when she sees him.
Because she loves Diddy.
Yeah.
She loves him like a son. I've seen that relationship throughout the years also.
But she said she was sickened when she saw that.
Of course, anybody would be sickened. You know, I get calls now from women that's dealing with DV. And not only was that footage sickening, that footage is sending so many women around the world back to their counselors because they reliving the same thing again, seeing that footage.
2018, 2 years after this incident at the Intercontinental, Kim Porter passes away. For a few days, she had flu-like symptoms, and then she suddenly dies from ultimately what they said was lobar pneumonia. She was 47 years old. I'm 50. Like, she's younger than me.
Right.
you weren't around at this time.
No, I wasn't around. I was with Ciroc at this time, but
So you were kind of in the mix still.
Right, I'm
Yeah.
still in the mix, right.
When you heard this news, number one, did you hear that she was sick leading up to the situation or no?
I heard that she was sick, yeah. I heard that not leading up to the situation. I just heard the play-by-play of the day that the situation happened.
A 47-year-old dying from pneumonia sounds crazy.
Right.
Especially someone who has means to the best doctors and everything else like that. I can imagine if some homeless person dies of pneumonia. I get it.
Right.
But someone who has access to the best hospitals, the best doctors, to die from pneumonia sounds crazy.
Right.
Were you around Puffy after this happened?
No, I've been around Puff after that happened, but not on a daily basis. Like if he went to Vegas to do a Ciroc party, he would holler at them and say, yo, Barnes could be the contact person out here. So in those type of situations, I was around. But I did speak to one of Kim's best friends, and I kind of just needed to know. And I asked him, I said, what do you think? And this was one of Kim's closest friends. And she said, Barnes, I would hate to think that he had something to do with it. She said, but I think it was Kim's birthday or even Diddy's birthday, and they went over to the Miami house, and they said that Kim had an IV in her arm the whole night. So I guess she was feeling sick or wasn't feeling right, and they put the IV in her. But she said that whole night that Kim had the IV and she was acting funny. And they thought it was just because of drinks or something, like, oh, Kim must be drunk or something. But she said, Barnes, she literally only had 2 drinks. And she said the next day is when Kim started complaining about being sick. And they was, they had family members that was over there close to her and stuff like that. And they said one of the young girls left that morning to take the twins to school. And when they came back, Kim had passed away. And one of my close friends that was working with Puff at that particular time said he was the one that actually called Puff and said, listen, I just spoke to Kim. Now, where Kim lives in Toluca Lake and where Puff lives is literally 15 minutes over the hill. Mm-hmm. And Puff told him, yeah, I heard she was sick. And he said, nah, man, like, she don't feel good. Like, she don't sound the same. You need to get over there. And he said that's when Puff went over there.
Oh,
and,
so Puff went to go see her.
Yeah.
Right before she died.
Yeah, but when he got there, she was dead. So they say.
Oh. Right. And there's rumors that Kim was writing a tell-all book, but that's actually not true.
From what I hear from my best friend, she said Kim wasn't writing a tell-all book at all. She was writing a kid's book.
Yeah.
And she was trying to, she didn't like the way that Puff controlled her and controlled the money that he would give her for the kids. So she wanted to make sure her exact words were, this motherfucker not gonna run my kids like this. I want them to have their own money like Russell and his kids have.
Yeah.
So she was trying to build a foundation for them to have their own following. And that's what the book was about, kids' books.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. And I don't think Diddy had anything to do with her passing away.
I would hope he don't, because even their relationship, when people ask me, I can say as many bad things as I can say about Puff, but at the same time, if someone was to ask me, do I think he loved Kim? I think he loved Kim. I really do. And I don't think I don't know. And that's what I'm gonna say. I don't know to what lengths a person would go to when you're dealing with billions of dollars and you're dealing with so many different things, and to have somebody have all that information and know so much about you. I can't say no more with everything that came out that he definitely didn't, but I would hate to find out that he did.
Well, it seemed like things started to change because Kim dies and then Cassie and Diddy break up after like 10 years.
Right.
According to Cassie, they met up in Santa Monica at an Italian restaurant to have a final conversation about, them, parting ways. Cassie claimed they went back to, her apartment and he raped her. Mm-hmm. That's in the lawsuit. It's horrific if that actually happened. But at that point, it seemed like their relationship was over. And she had actually moved on with the trainer.
Right.
That Puffy actually set her up with.
Right. Right. And that's because she was confiding. She was confiding.
Have you ever met this trainer?
No, I never met the trainer.
Yeah. And she ended up having 2 kids. And it seemed like the story was essentially over between these two. In 2022, Diddy received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the BET Awards. She said, I have a special shout out. Thank you to all the people that were really there for me. He named a bunch of people. And at the end, he said, and also Cassie for holding me down in the dark times. Love. A lot of people kind of made jokes because he was with Young Miami at the time and didn't mention her at all.
Right.
And this was an interesting kind of comment, and it was also mentioned in the lawsuit. Then in 2023, Cassie files the lawsuit.
Yeah.
And this is the lawsuit that I've been referencing throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right before this lawsuit gets filed, you and Diddy talk.
Right.
How'd that conversation go?
That conversation went relatively regular. I had spoken to him a week or 2 ahead of that time. And it was just basically back and forth. Yo, what's going on? Yo, this, that, and the other. My son is incarcerated in Namibia. So we have that conversation. And my son had just got convicted and was up for an appeal. So I hit Diddy and said, yo, listen, I need some help. I need $20,000. And he said, I don't have it right now, Barnes. I'm going through something. And like I said, I mentioned this before. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, cool. I'll leave it at that. Then he says, yo, but I may need your help. So with him going to legal things with Diageo and Ciroc, for me being known for selling over 1 million cases of Ciroc, I'm saying, okay, he's getting ready to get either De Leon or Ciroc. But then I wake up to so many DMs and this, that, and the other. And like I said, Cassie never got in touch with me. And it says what's in the lawsuit. And I said, by him telling me that he needs my help, I put 2 and 2 together that he was going to try to go to trial with this. And if he went to go to trial, he had to reach out to me to get my help because he knows that I'm in the lawsuit. And he tells me I need your help with this. But then when I see everything about it, he texts me and says, yo, you know I'm here for you. I'm here for you. If you need anything from me, he said, hit KK or hit Julie Greenwald, which is his PR person. And he said, because I don't always look at my phone and everything like that. And I just decided not to hit them and everything. I just said, we talked one time, we spoke, and they start telling me, well, Barnes, people are going to reach out to you. So they start trying to do damage control instead of talking about other things. If I don't need you to talk to this person from the Post, they against Puff. I don't need you to talk to this person and that person. They started trying to direct me to who to talk to and who not to talk to. In my mind, I read the lawsuit. At this particular time now, I go and I read the lawsuit.
Yeah.
And that's when I made up my mind when I read that lawsuit that I had to go against him because it was the only way that he could be stopped. Like, honestly, it was the only way he could be stopped. As if I didn't know so many women and so many allegations were going to come out, but I knew these allegations to be true. And anything that I could do to help her in that situation, I was going to do.
Yeah, you were one of the first people that publicly spoke out and said, yes, this actually happened. I was there. This mention of me is actually accurate.
And everybody thought I was lying.
Yeah.
And I was saying, how could you think I'm lying if she mentioned me? I'm off in the Moondocks now doing what I got to do. I'm not bothering nobody. I'm doing what I have to do. And I got dragged into it. And I always say, by me getting dragged into it, you got to remember, Puff doesn't travel with nobody less than 6 or 7 people. Unless he's going to do, I think one time we went to rehab And it was just me and him in Mexico while he went to rehab. So it's very few things that he just go to by himself. So for people to be in their life still from 2012 to 2018, it speaks a lot of what she's always thought. And I tell people it speaks a lot about character, because I'm not thinking all the way back to 2012 to put Bonds in the middle of this when I've been getting my ass beat from 2012 to 2018.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to mention whoever was there. So for that, I said I had to stand up and just, because he going to keep on doing it. So at one point or another, somebody got to be stopped.
Well, she files the lawsuit, and from what I understand, they were threatening to file this lawsuit for a long time.
6 months.
6 months. And she asked for what, 30 million?
30 million.
30 million in the lawsuit. But as soon as she files it, less than a day later, they announce that it's been settled.
Right.
Now, I've talked to a few people. I've heard the settlement numbers in the low millions, the low single-digit millions. I don't know if it's true or not. You know, you have to understand that in a situation like this, this money's not taxed. On a lawsuit that has to do with abuse, she'll get all the money straight. $3 million is still a lot of money. You know, but I don't know. But from the outside looking in, him settling this lawsuit so quickly made him look even worse.
Well, at this particular time, what people got to realize is that's not him settling the lawsuit. Because by her naming so many people, all of these companies got insurance. And from what I'm understanding, it was the insurance say it's not up to you to settle this lawsuit. We're settling the lawsuit because they didn't want other things to come out. So they superseded what he thought and said, no, we're settling the lawsuit. We're paying her. So that's what I'm getting back.
Makes sense. I can see it happening. But as things go, this lawsuit triggered a whole bunch of other lawsuits.
Right.
Some girl that was in the studio with Diddy in like the 90s who claimed she was underage at the time. That lawsuit. Lil Rod. That lawsuit seems ridiculous, honestly. Did you read through that one?
I read through that one, and I'm going to be honest with you.
Now, you weren't around when Lil Rod was around.
I wasn't around with Lil Rod, but being a person that was around and me reading his lawsuit, as crazy as it sounds, the only thing that sounds crazy to me is the stuff that I don't know about, like the Cuban Gooding Jr. type of stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as everything else he said, if you a type of person that's there because him living with him, I've seen that a million times. You know, whenever somebody is working on an album, he actually takes that person with him wherever they go.
Huh.
They actually move into the guest house. They actually go on the trips and everything with him. And at this particular time, when I was doing all of that, his kids wasn't of age now. So now we're dealing with 25-year-old kids, 28-year-old kids. So that allows the younger generation to come into play now. They have girlfriends, they have friends. So the same type of security that was around when we was there, we didn't have to deal with them. So if Puff came back from a party, I'm standing at that front door. Yo, they with you? Because he's so high, he don't know who's in, we just going to the house, let's go. Mm-hmm. So now if nobody's there to step up and say, yo, how old is you? But now you got Christian and Justin who's in their 20s, early 20s at this time. Of course they got girlfriends and friends that might be 19, 20, 21. And unless somebody is at that door to be like, yo, you look too young to get in here, this, that, it could have been some younger people there. As far as the drugs and the marijuana and the drinking go, yeah, we always see that. That's nothing new. Yeah. So I can believe Little Rod. I can actually believe him because if you're going into there with now it's all about phones and it's all about tape and everything. So I can believe what he says about seeing all of these type of things. That I do believe.
Well, with all these lawsuits, Diddy finally issued a statement. He said, "Enough is enough. For the last couple of weeks, I have sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation, my legacy. Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth." That statement didn't age well.
That was a PR statement.
I know.
When I read it, I was sickening when I read it.
Yeah.
Because I said, you still ain't learned. That was my exact words, you still ain't learned. And if you look at any of my interviews, people say, yo, do you think he did? No, he deserved, I say he needs to humble himself, be real with himself, and he needs to seek help because he was a powerful man. So people say, yo, all these lawsuits coming out of nowhere, it can't be real. No, it's like David and Goliath. Once somebody stands up to him and it's out there, now these other women are feeling comfortable speaking about it because they felt they had no chance of winning before. So now, since it's out there, I do believe them when they coming forward. I don't care if it was 20 years ago, if it was 30 years ago, if it was 40 years ago. Now he's vulnerable and they're speaking up. Now they seen the video and it's bringing back everything that they went through. So they're speaking up.
Earlier this year, the feds raid Diddy's Beverly Hills house and his Miami house.
Right.
So now things are getting serious. Because when the feds come, that is the United States of America versus you. 95% conviction rate, or maybe 98% conviction rate. They go in, I think like his sons get handcuffed and so forth. And now everyone's like, okay, now this is getting very serious.
Right.
When you heard about the raids, what did you think? What do you think they were looking for in those raids?
I think they was looking for anything, any evidence. I think they was looking for videos. I think they was looking for tapes. I hear a lot of people say, first let me say, when I was there, we didn't have none of that stuff. We didn't have videos and everything. We tried to stay as way from videos as possible. Yeah, you had your simple videos of the front door, of the stuff like that, but none of the rooms or anything. But so much has went on between those times. So many things have been stolen. So many other accusations that came forward. I believe that they was looking for videos of anything that they could convict them on. I also believe that it was some powerful people that could be in them videos doing certain things that they want to get their hands on. I also believe, a lot of people say they went in with force. But I also say they don't know what they going into. You hear so many stories about, yo, he got guns. You hear so many stories he got this. You hear so many stories that he's with this gang people. So you rather go in there and be safe. And then we all look at Justin and Kristen as kids, but Justin is 30 years old. Christian is 25 years old. They're his kids, but they're not kids. They're grown men. So I do see them going in with force. If it was excessive force, it might have been because they don't know who's behind those doors. Is he going to go out quickly, or is it somebody that might have a warrant on their own in there? You don't know what's going in there. But I think they wanted to turn that place upside down to find anything, not this just incriminating against other people, but anything that they could use against him also.
The houses get raided, but no charges have actually been announced yet. But, the wheels of justice, they spin slowly.
Right.
These feds will have everything lined up before everything drops. You hear a story that Diddy took out a $100 million loan against these homes.
Right.
Which the reason why I made, the news was that this, I guess, was the biggest second mortgage that had been done, like in America. It was just like unheard of for a residential property. But still, everyone's sort of guessing. They don't know. And then, like I mentioned earlier, CNN releases the video, and then all hell breaks loose.
Right.
Diddy drops a video apologizing. Now, he didn't mention Cassie's name because they say that when they settled, one of the rules was that he can't mention her name again. I don't know if it's true or not. Mm-hmm. But when that video dropped and you watched it, what did you think?
I see, yo, he up to his bullshit again. He's trying to manipulate the situation. I looked at it and said, no, you're not. You're not. I felt like he wasn't sorry. He just didn't go into it deep enough to be sorry. Before I found out of what they say about the name thing, I feel like it's other ways that he could have did it. I think that was just a plea that he felt like he had to do. Like, I said to myself, like, who is the PR person behind this? Because whoever is the PR person, just like I said in the video, in the last year, has been directing him to like a crash dummy. Because if you're not going to get up there and be sincere about it, then don't get up there and do it at all. If you're not going to show proof of you trying to get help and stuff like that, then why mention that you're getting help? I'm not going to take it on face value. Oh, I've been seeking help. And like I said, the incident that Cassie talks about in 2009 with her, was 2009. The incident that we talk about with Kim is 2005. Now, since this video, Misa has came and talked about her getting beat up by Diddy at times when they was together. So that right there shows you're not sorry about what you've done. You're sorry that you got caught, because there's no way that you was in this dark place in life from 1990 something where Misa say she was getting her ass whipped to 2005 and on where Kim say she was getting her ass whipped to 2009 where, so all of these were dark years. Like, I don't think he sat down and thought about what he was saying.
Well, yeah, because Misa Hilton, who is the mother of his first child?
Justin, yeah.
Justin, right. She actually commented after watching that video,
right.
You know, not the apology video, but the CNN video.
Right.
She said, I'm heartbroken that Cassie must relive the horror of her abuse, and my heart goes out to her. I know exactly how she feels, and through my empathy, it has triggered my own trauma. These young people were raised by women that wanted the best for them. We put God and education first and have always been united in our mutual effort to support their dreams. Two of the youngest do not have their mother here, and it has been truly our duty to support them.
Exactly.
So she kind of implies that Diddy beat her up as well.
Exactly.
Did you ever hear about this?
Of course. I've heard security from before me talk about it.
What did they say?
You know what I'm saying? Talked about times that he punched in the face, times that he kicked on the side of the car, things like that. I've heard all that. And I know Misa, but we've never had that conversation. You know what I'm saying? That was before my time. But security has spoken about it. I was just there really for the Kim and the Cassie. But they talk about the beatings that he had with Misa.
Well, then the final chapter, as of right now, happened. And that was just yesterday, a federal grand jury is now meeting over a possible indictment for Diddy. They also said there's a video of a male sex worker being abused by him. God knows what that means.
And I believe that after this male sex worker actually has to say something, I believe that what we're going through with the woman is going to happen with the men. I believe the sex workers throughout the years are going to come forward and say exactly what they've been through, exactly what they did, and exactly what they had to do.
Well, although that's not it is illegal, but it's not. Hiring a sex worker is a slap on the wrist. Like no one goes to prison for hiring a prostitute, male or female. I mean, not really.
It just validates stories.
It just validates the story.
Right.
And the thing about grand juries that not everyone realizes is that it's a very lopsided system. Like, for example, Keefe D went through a grand jury that lasted for months.
Right.
So essentially, the way it works is that they put together a grand jury and the prosecution starts bringing in witnesses to basically justify an indictment. And this could go on for months.
Right.
For months. And there's nobody from Diddy's side who's allowed to sit in on this and say, no, this person's not credible. Let me explain why. It's really a one-sided argument.
Right.
So the feds could keep bringing person after person after person until they finally justify the grand jury in order to indict Diddy. So from my point of view, he's almost definitely going to be indicted.
Right.
When you heard about the grand jury, what did you think?
I said he going to jail. That was my exact words. I said, one thing about the music industry, what they look at the norm that's illegal, they look at it as being just regularly normal things. So I don't know if he'll go to jail for the beatings and stuff like that because there's statute of limitations.
Right. The LA police basically said that they can't prosecute because it's past the statute of limitations for that CNN video because it was 2016.
Right.
8 years ago. Too long.
Right. So I guess the things that they're talking about for me listening is a drug cartel or doing some things with
sex trafficking
and stuff. Sex trafficking to me, it's a wide range of things.
Yeah.
You know, you meeting somebody in, let's just say France, having sexual relationships with them over there. You own a private jet. Yo, you want to come chill in New York for a little while? And the person gets on the plane and comes to New York for a little while. If you have sex with them in New York, is that considered sex trafficking?
Yeah, it's very gray area.
It's a gray area.
It's very gray area.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're trying to charge him with at this point, but if they have a grand jury,
right, that means they're bringing something.
He's 99.9%. You know, Johnny Cochran famously said that I could indict a ham sandwich with a grand jury.
Right.
You know, so now he has this hanging over his head. And, the accusations keep coming. You know, Rolling Stone put out this big article that basically goes back to like his college days.
That's
like
right.
people said that they saw him, whipping a girl with a belt.
Right.
Yeah.
And his son didn't make it no better with the record that he released.
Yeah, that was horrible.
You know, telling the feds, yo, you went to this house and that house, but you ain't know we owned the one next door. And then when they do their homework, they say, oh, we ran into 2-Star Island, but we didn't realize he owned 1-Star Island. So, making them look like assholes ain't doing you no better neither.
No, I mean, listen, I've always said this. If I was Diddy right now, with the type of money that he had, and I still had my passport, I would go somewhere where there's no extradition policy, like Russia, let's say, where you know that the U.S. can't go in there.
Right.
And I would just live out the rest of my days in my mansion, and at least I'm not going to prison.
Yeah, I believe somebody else just moved out the country like that. I believe Russell Simmons just moved out the country.
It wasn't just. It was a while back. But,
okay.
And Russell's never been charged with anything, but there was a documentary that was coming out that actually did come out on HBO Max.
Okay.
About a woman accusing him from something from like the 90s.
Okay.
And so forth. And, basically when you look at that situation, you see what happened to R. Kelly. R. Kelly's in prison because of a documentary.
Okay.
And I think that people like Russell probably looked at this and said, okay, if this happened to R. Kelly over a documentary, I'm not going to have it happen to me. Let me just go over here. I'm an older man. I have money. Let me just chill and see what happens. And since then, he's been back and forth to the U.S. He's never been charged with anything. He has a lawsuit, but it's just a civil lawsuit.
Right.
But the thing with the federal lawsuit is that Cassie, although she settled with Diddy, a settlement is considered a private agreement. So if the feds come and ask her to testify in a criminal case, she could absolutely do it.
Okay.
She could throw that NDA out the window. She's got all the money. She gets to keep all that. And she could get on the stand and basically say exactly what she said in that lawsuit on the stand. And it appears to me that the money didn't really bring closure to her. It seems like she's probably still mad at him and still hates him. And, she made a statement after that video came out, on CNN. And, you're going to have a lot of people come out of the woodwork and cooperate against Diddy.
And that's what I tried to explain to a young lady yesterday. Money doesn't solve the issue when it's mental. Yeah, money will make you live better, but money is not going to let you do away with the trauma that you've been through.
Yeah.
So she got 30 million supposed to be. Yeah, she can live good, but when she's alone at night or when she's doing something at night, you're still going to replay these beatings and these whippings, and that's what's happening now. You know, that's what's happening with women all over the world. They're reliving that situation that they've been through throughout their life that they thought they put away or they was able to put away in some way, form, or fashion. Now it's right back up again because they had to watch it. So I even get mad if the feds are the ones that leaked it, if Cassie the one that leaked it, whoever leaked it, I'm also mad that Instagram allowed that to be played because, or not even just Instagram, any social media.
All social media platforms were playing this, from TikTok to Twitter, yeah.
Because the medical bills for that now, which I'm hearing from domestic violence teachers myself said, yo, this is literally hell right now I'm going through. I'm like, what are you going through? My students, my people that we got so far, we're back to day one now.
If you get subpoenaed by the feds in this criminal case against Diddy, will you cooperate?
If I get subpoenaed, I'm not going to jail for nobody, one.
Well, number one, you can't go to jail.
Right.
But you don't have to agree. Like, for example, sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to say this, just so we were accurate in this answer. I was, Las Vegas PD reached out to me about the Keefe D case.
Right.
They wanted to get all my raw footage. I just ignored them. I'm not going to cooperate.
Right.
Just because I feel if you sit down with me, regardless of what you did, I'm not going to turn around and then cooperate with the feds to put you in prison.
Right.
I'm going to try to protect my guests to the best of my ability, whether I agree with them or whether, I'm on the same page with them or not. So you don't necessarily have to cooperate if you don't want to.
Right.
So jail is really out the window. You don't have to. You don't have to go to jail one way or another.
Okay.
So let me ask the question again. If you get subpoenaed for this case and they ask you to take the stand in this case against Diddy, will you take the stand against him?
Yes.
You will?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because I can't say that I'm going to be an advocate for one thing and then not stand up for another thing. So if I say that he's evil, if I say all these things about him, if I was just one of those people that went back in my corner and sat down, then I'm continuing for this to keep going on and keep going on and keep going on. I'm showing that person that they just as powerful as they think they was. So anything that I could do to help these women, I would do. Honestly.
And when people call you a snitch and everything else like that, considering that you're a street guy, how will you react to that?
I tell people all the time, I'm not a street guy. You know what I'm saying? I tell them that went out the window a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? I got 4 daughters, you know what I'm saying, and a son. But I got 4 daughters, one of them in the music industry. So how could I worry about me at the age of 57? How could I worry about me when I've been tried in so many other criminal cases that I could have got 100 years for, and I was the only one that ever got locked up? I never had nothing to say about nobody else. So to me, when it comes to Diddy in this situation, this is small fries to me. The only one that could say this is snitching is a person that hasn't been through nothing in life.
Yeah, man, listen, this is not me talking. I personally don't subscribe to the whole snitching thing. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a set of rules I feel are designed to keep the people on top safe while all the crash dummies underneath them go to prison.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're involved in a crime, with everyone I've ever talked to, like the Freeway Rickies and everything else like that, at one point he'd accept that snitching is part of crime.
Right.
So,
well, if you watch all the, and it's funny because if you watch all the gangster movies, all the ones that these people are calling themselves, the Gaudis and everything, all of them have relationships with the Fed.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, they all work with the feds in their own way.
Yeah, they all, spoke to them.
Sammy
they all
the Bull, everybody. They
Everybody.
ultimately cooperated, and everyone justified a reason to do what they did, which ultimately was just self-preservation.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So if you cooperate, I will support, your reasons to cooperate. I don't have any problem with it. But I'm saying, the way
the street is.
The street works, social media works, you're going to be called that by certain people.
Of course.
And that's okay. That's okay. Well, Roger Bonds, man, I appreciate you coming in. We did an interview with you before. My man Sean Prez did it last time.
Shout out to Prez.
I had him do it just because you guys have a relationship, because he was a bad boy for a long time, and I felt that he was a better choice. Right. But when it comes to this, I felt that I needed to do it myself.
Of course.
So I appreciate you being very honest and transparent about this. There's lots of people around Diddy that are not saying anything. Like, I don't think Pauly will ever talk. I don't think he's ever done an interview in his life. Right. And I'm probably sure he's going to take this to his grave. James Cruz is not going to say anything. And I know James from way back.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of people, some of which you mentioned, they're going to be very quiet because they're going to be worried about the spotlight being put back on them.
Right.
And people starting to accuse them of certain things. But you were brave enough to actually speak out knowing that people are going to criticize you for it. And I respect you for it.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
It's hard, but in order to make change, you got to show change.
That's what it is, man. Roger Bonds, man, wishing you all the best. And I wish that, I just want to put some positive energy about your son, who's still locked up, who got convicted of murder out in Africa. I've been working with you trying to get some money your way, not only from, this source, but also from, other sources that I've hooked you up with to try to help out, because I know how important it is for your son to get out of that situation.
Yeah,
it's a bad situation.
Yeah, it's a bad situation where he's been in there 14 years.
Yeah.
And granted, let's just say he had to do the 29 years, but they're trying not to give him the 14 years credit that he already has.
Wow.
And that right there is illegal on and that's what people don't understand. I'm a man. If he had to do 29 years, okay, let him come back to the United States. He got 14 in. He got 10 left with good time.
Yeah.
But for you to take away the 14 years, you can't. He's done 14 years. The cell is not empty. He's been in there. Give him his time. And that's what I'm fighting for now.
Yeah. And, just like anything else in life, money always fixes the situation.
It does.
It does. Well, yeah, man, that's what it is. So I wish the best for you and especially your son. Hoping he gets through it quickly.
Thank you.
Peace.